Hello class, in this video we are going to learn how to install Ubuntu server in Virtualbox. So first we need to download the ISO file for the Ubuntu server installation disk. So all you have to do is Google Ubuntu server and click on this link over here from ubuntu.com, get Ubuntu server, and then click on manual server installation. Then click on Ubuntu server 2004 LTS and you will be prompted to save the file. Click on save the file, click OK. I have already downloaded mine, so I don't have to do that. Just 1 second. Just make sure that I have the download, and yeah, it's right over there. Okay, so next you need to make sure that your computer, your virtual machine meets the minimum requirement for Ubuntu server. So we're gonna click on system requirements, and here they are: 1 CPU, 1 gigabyte of RAM, and 2.5 gigabytes of disk space. We are not gonna use 2.5 gigabytes of disk space because we're gonna be, if you're gonna be setting up a web server or an FTP server, you're gonna be putting in some files in there to demonstrate that your server works. So we're gonna increase that to 15 gigabytes. That should be good enough for our proof of concept. So we're gonna click on new. Name, I'm gonna call mine Ubuntu server, and assuming you're going to do a website, you should call it Ubuntu server web server, right? Or if you're gonna do an FTP server, a file server, then you label it accordingly. This will makes it easier to identify your virtual machine. So in my case, this is gonna be for a web server, so I'm just gonna put Ubuntu server -web server. The operating system is Linux, the version is Ubuntu. Next. 1 gigabyte of RAM is good enough for a server. They don't require a lot. Go create, click on next. Dynamically allocated is fine. Mine requires 15 for the project I'm thinking of, but 10 is fine too, because this is just a proof of concept at the end of the day. Create, and now that we're here, we're gonna go in settings. We're gonna leave basic as is. We're gonna enable share clipboard. When drag and drop is gonna stay disabled because servers don't have a graphical user interface unless you install one on them, so we're gonna leave it as is. If you want to put some description over here, you can. For instance, the host name for this is gonna be web server, and the user is gonna be your Blackboard username. In this case, I'm gonna pretend my name is John Smith, and it's gonna be J Smith. And yeah, that's it. And then the password, again, my super secure password, PCCC. And that's it. We're not gonna do disk encryption either. This is just a proof of concept. We're gonna go system, that's fine. We're gonna disable floppy. All of that is fine. We're gonna leave the processor count to 1, everything the same. Display, yeah, well, I'm gonna increase this a little bit. Graphics controller, we don't need to enable 3D acceleration because again, no graphical user interface, no need to increase that. Storage, we're gonna click on empty, and we're gonna add here our Ubuntu server file. So choose a disk and Ubuntu live server. Once you have Ubuntu live server image loaded in there, make sure it's the live server image. We're gonna disable audio because again, don't need it. But in network, we're gonna change this from NAT to bridge. This will allow our virtual machines to get an IP address from the router in your house instead of from the virtual machine. This is important because we need to access this server from outside your virtual environment, and this will allow us to do that. In my case, my computer is connected to Ethernet, so my Ethernet card appears over here. In your case, probably it's gonna be your Wi-Fi card of your laptop, and so your Wi-Fi card is gonna appear over here. You should leave that as is, no need to change that. Serial port, we're gonna leave that as is. We're gonna leave the USB as is. We don't need the share folder. And well, we never did nothing with the user interface. We're gonna click OK, and we're gonna click on Start. Now, the installation of Ubuntu server is very straightforward. It's actually easier than the installation of the desktop, and it's faster too. So I'm just gonna go through the wizard, and I'm gonna let the installation go through. So the first thing that it does, like it did with the desktop, is check the disk integrity. Is the disk correct? If the disk okay, the download went correct. Yeah, it is good. Let's get it started. So come on. It's almost done. There you go. First screen. Select your language. English is the default, so I'm gonna press enter on that. It's gonna ask you for the confirmation. Yes, that's correct. I have an English keyboard and that's correct. Next, it's gonna ask you, hey, this is how you set up your network card. Is this correct? Yes, that is correct. I'm connected via Ethernet because my virtual machine connects to my computer. And as you can see, the IP address that I'm getting over here is an IP address similar to the IP address of my computer. Because now the virtual machine is getting an IP from my router in the house. It's not getting it from the computer itself. If in this window you get a 10.0 IP address, make sure that your network card is bridge. That's normally the reason why you didn't get the right IP address over here. Or if your actual subnet in your house is with a 10.0, right? Then yeah, you will get the right IP address. The best way to do this is, at this point, go outside in your computer and open a terminal. I'm using Linux, but in Windows, you just have to open the CMD. In Windows, you will have to type ipconfig. And then in the output of that command, go to the IPv4 address and compare the IPv4 address with the one that your computer has. Make sure that the first two octets here, 192.168, matches. In my case, is hostname minus I, right? And as you can see, the IP address of my computer is 192.168. The IP address of my virtual machine is 192.168. If this computer, my regular computer, wants to talk to this computer, it can, because they are located in the same network. Okay, with that said, let's move on. Click OK, done over here. We are not using a proxy, so we can just click on done. The mirror address is correct. We are located in the US. That's the fastest mirror for downloading software, so click OK. Next is going to ask us for the disk configuration. Well, yes, I want to install Ubuntu in the entire disk. It's the only disk that this virtual machine has. So we're going to click enter on this one, tab on this one, tab again, tab, done. This is going to ask us to confirm the changes that we're going to make to this virtual machine. Enter, because that's correct. Are you sure? I'm positive. Your name, John Smith. Your server name, web server. Pick a username, J Smith. Choose a password, ultra secure password. Done. Tab, enter. As you can see, all I've been doing is tab, enter, tab, enter. That's it. No mouse. Click done over here because we're not going to use that either. We are going to use SSH in this server, so press the space bar to select. We are not going to import an SSH identity, so we can just tab, enter. And the installation just started. Now, we're not going to use none of these services. None of them. So you can just tab and press enter. Let the installer do. Go grab a cup of coffee. Come back in like 5-10 minutes. Okay, the installation is done. Now, we have the option to view the logs or reboot. And I'm going to reboot. Wow, reboot. My God. I'm sorry, I haven't had my coffee yet. So my English is broken. It's as broken as Windows it is after you do an update. Okay, press enter over here. And we're almost done. We are literally almost done. We just need to do an update and we're good to go. Okay, login. Over here, we're gonna put our username and then our password. Let's wait until this is done. Okay, done. All I did was press enter, by the way. Okay, so our username is J.S. Smith and my password. And I have logged into my server. And that's all you're gonna get. There is no graphical, there is no mouse or clicking, there is none of that. This is all you get. This is how web servers work in the real world. This is how real servers work in the real world. There is no graphical interface. All you get is the command line. Do what you need to do, leave it alone to do its job. Right? So over here we're gonna do an update. Sudo apt update. Then sudo apt upgrade. Gonna let this guy do his thing. and we're done. If you want to turn this computer off, shut down. If you don't want to wait, shut down now. Done. You need to document this process in your documentation. So go over the video, go over this website over here, read it, include whatever you consider is important, and that's it. You don't need to provide a lot of screenshots in your report. Just a couple of them is fine. Just include that update command in the end. It's very important. And yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, well, reach out to me in Slack.